Hi, I am Max Marcon and I'm a Senior Product Manager at MongoDB. And I'll be happy to show you how to make the best out of MongoDB Compass. First thing first, let me give you an overview of what you can do with MongoDB Compass. Compass is the easiest way to explore and manipulate your data stored in MongoDB. It's a graphical user interface with an intuitive user experience that lets you navigate through your data in just a few clicks. As you'd expect from a database GUI, you can also modify and delete your data. And you have also easy access to a visual explain plan tool to verify the performance of your queries and check your indexes. For developers, Compass provides a very straightforward workflow to create queries and aggregations and export them to code. Finally, Compass includes an aggregated shell to run admin operations, bulk operations, and to execute scripts. We'll look at all of those capabilities in detail in a second. The first thing we're going to look at is how to navigate and explore your data. Here, we are connected to a MongoDB 5.0 cluster. As you can see, we have a number of databases, and inside the database, we have a number of collections. Some of them are regular collections. Then we have some read-only views, and finally, we also have a couple of the newly introduced time series collections. Let's explore the data in the IoT collection. So as you can see, this is data from a connected sensor that I built some time ago. And in the data, we have the state of the lights, the temperature, the humidity, and the location object that represents the coordinates of where the sensor was placed. There is actually a better way to explore this data in MongoDB Compass. You can use the schema analyzer. In the schema analyzer, Compass samples the data in the collection and shows you a visual representation of such data. For example, you can see the fields and the types and the distribution of the data inside each of the fields. When there is location data like in the sensor, we represent that with a geo-visualization. So you can see exactly how your data is distributed across the world. In this case, the sensor was placed at my house there in Berlin. And then we can see when it was online, the temperature distribution, and also the update interval. One of the first things our users often do when they connect to a MongoDB cluster for the first time is to import some data into it. Let's see what that looks like. So first thing first, we'll create a new collection. I have a dataset with some Michelin-starred restaurants from all around the world, so we'll create a collection for that. You can see here that you can also create a time series collection, one of the new features introduced in MongoDB 5.0. But we don't need that for now, so let's create a regular collection. Now, let's import the dataset into it. We're going to use that Michelin.json file. We're going to hit import, and the data is now imported into MongoDB. Now that we have the data in MongoDB, let's play around with it and build an aggregation. Let's try to figure out how many Michelin-starred restaurants there are for each region of the world. With the aggregation builder in Compass, creating and editing aggregations is very easy. With the state-by-state real-time preview, we can quickly see if we are doing the right operations on the data. So we start with the group stage. We group by region, and then we count the total number of restaurants in that region. And then we are on a project stage to rename the fields into something nicer and more meaningful. So we hide _ID, which might not be very meaningful for someone who looks at the collection afterwards. We rename it to region, and we put back the total. And there you go. Here's my data that resulted from the aggregation. Now that I found what I wanted, the aggregation builder lets me save the aggregation as a view. This is useful when I use aggregations to discover insights on my data, and I want to share those insights with other people on my team. The beautiful thing about views is that if I'm in Atlas, the MongoDB data platform, I can use that view as a source for charts in MongoDB charts. And here is what my restaurants by region looks like when I show them on a map built with MongoDB charts. Developers often use our aggregation builder to build aggregations that eventually they'll use in their code. That's something that Compass makes very easy with the export to language functionality. Let's take a look. So we'll look at an example of pipeline to find all the Michelin-starred restaurants near the MongoDB headquarters in New York City. As you can see, each restaurant has a location field. So let's use for this example an aggregation that I had built beforehand and saved in Compass. You see that we are using a $geoneer stage to find restaurants within a 5-kilometer radius from the MongoDB headquarters, which is located at those coordinates over there. We are also using a $set field to translate the number of dollar symbols into a number, which makes it easier to use in an application or a chart. Now that we are done with the aggregation and it does what it needs to do, we'll take the pipeline and export it to Python to use it in our code. So now we are pasting it inside a Python file. I had all the scaffolding ready, so we'll just paste it inside the aggregate function. There you go. Now we save it, and then we go here and we run it. And here are my restaurants. So if I had to build an application, this would be very easy, and it will only take a second. The other thing Compass users often do with aggregations is exporting the results to a CSV file to share the insights with other people. In order to do that, to share with my team a list of restaurants where we might go for dinner next time we are all together in your city, I'll create a view again. Now that the view is created, I'm going to export it to CSV in the same way I'd export a regular collection. So we choose Export Collection, we select all the fields, because everything is interesting here. Then we say we want a CSV, we set the file name, and we export. And here is what the data looks like. The last thing I want to show you today is the integrated shell. When you're working in Compass and you need to use the MongoDB shell, there is no need to open a new terminal somewhere else. With one click, you get a shell already connected to your cluster. In the interactive shell, you can run any database command, any CRUD operations, and bulk operations too. And you can also write any administration command. So we see here a find one, for example, and now let's also try to run a db.hello command. The integrated shell is also a good place to run scripts with all the Node.js core modules at your disposal. Let's look at an example. Here, we're going to use the HTTPS module. So we require it. And now I wrote a script that loops through all the documents in the Michelin collection and checks if the URL for each restaurant is valid. I know that some of them no longer exist, and the link goes to a 404 page. So depending on the status of the HTTP GET call, we set a new flag to each document. Now that the script has run, we refresh and see that the new flag is there. Let's see if there is any invalid URL. Yep, and if we check that one in the browser, we actually see that it goes to a 404 page. I hope you liked what you just saw and that you'll try out Compass today if you're not using it already. If you have feedback, feel free to DM me on Twitter, or if you have a feature suggestion, just submit it through our feedback portal.